Okay, it is 7 o'clock and we are going to get started here with this city council meeting. Before we start, I wanted to just say a few things about kind of my style of running meetings, which is pretty casual. So I've told my fellow council members if they need to do anything to kind of bring their attention back to our work, if they need to stand up or stretch or anything like that, that is fine with me. Just make sure that when you are seated, you're speaking into the microphone. It's hard with this long table. When you turn your head, you sometimes turn away from the mic. So we're all kind of getting used to the new setup. One thing that I do find very distracting in meetings is cell phone use. So I'm going to remind everybody in the room to mute your cell phone. I'm going to ask council members to kind of put your phones someplace where you won't be tempted to grab them. And let's see, I made notes because I'm trying to be professional here. Also just note to my fellow council members, I really can't see you because of the long layout. So grand gestures if you're trying to get my attention. I will try to get into the habit of checking before we move between agenda items. But if I somehow miss you, please call my attention back to your desire to speak and we'll do that. Okay, so everybody mute your cell phones, please. And welcome to our regular council meeting of September 7th. 2021. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Roll call.
Oh, what was it? Roll call. Yeah, actually, sorry, still finding my rhythm here. And we do have an interesting situation. One of our council members was caught in the rainstorm. So we have our first hybrid meeting. Welcome, Lisa. So Lisa, just to remind you, if you are need to include your location with your roll call. I will let our clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Babcock.
Present, attending virtually from a Meyer parking lot in Burcham, Michigan.
Councilmember Bacon.
Present.
Councilmember Draheim.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Watson.
Here.
Mayor Gregg.
Here, and welcome, Shanna.
Thank you.
Okay, so approval of the agenda. Anybody want to approve it?
Motion to approve the agenda. Motion to approve the agenda.
Moved by Councilmember Bacon.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Draheim. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval of the minutes from the regular council meeting from August 19th, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to
Motion to
approve.
approve the minutes.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Bacon, seconded by Councilmember Watson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Cruising right along. On to communications. So just to remind everyone that all of our written communications that are received by 4 p.m. on our council day are posted online. Those are available to review as part of our agenda packet if you are so inclined. And I will move on to communications from the audience. Please remember, now that we're back in person, to fill out the blue card so that we have your contact info if you decide to address us today. Is there anybody that would like to speak to council? Shocking. Okay, well, this is excellent. Communications from council members.
I was wondering, are people calling in still?
Oh, yeah, I guess, do we have anybody? Thank you, Councilmember Watson. Do we have anybody waiting for a virtual comment, Emily?
There are no callers on the line.
Okay, thanks for that catch, Dana, much appreciated. All right, do any of our council members have anything to say?
Jesse?
Yes.
Mayor, excuse me. I just wanted to say thank you all for having me fill in this temporary role, and I'm glad to be here, and thanks again.
Well, welcome back, Shanna. We're excited to serve with you.
Pleasure.
Ron, you got anything?
No comments today.
Cool, Dana?
Welcome, Shanna. Thank you for joining us. And I had a couple of comments. First thing I want to do is say welcome back to the Michigan State students. It's fun to see you all floating around. It's fun to see what the new styles are and that we can just get back with friends and our studies. As we return to school and have all these mask mandates, my children and I were searching for masks for them to wear to school every single day. And some people are really into the disposable masks. And I just wanted to take a moment to think about our environment and think about animals. And when we have our disposable masks and we get rid of them, you should pull those strings or snip them, because animals can get caught in them in really weird situations. I've seen my own cats, for example, get caught in plastic bags in those handles. And thankfully, I'm around with my thumbs to help them out of it, but that's not the case for animals in our environment. So just please think about the environment as you keep yourself safe. I also wanted to say I appreciate how Abbott Road looks. It looks fantastic. I'm glad that I can drive down Abbott Road again. And I appreciate that large white arrow that was placed on Abbott Road to let us know that we're merging, because that's different for folks that are used to driving that street. And wanted to give a compliment to the police officers, because I had to call in with a noise complaint Friday night. I have trouble when my neighbors to the street behind me that I can't reach due to fences are too loud. The bass was loud. I could hear every single lyric. Groups of people were singing along to every single lyric. And at some points it just gets, it's disturbing. And I know if I'm bothered, that other people are bothered too. So I appreciate the speedy response of the police officers when I made that phone call. And the last thing I wanted to comment on is, actually I didn't check the communications to see if that communication from that person was in our public comments, if someone could.
I am looking something up on my phone.
Does
I didn't
anybody
look
know?
to see if it was in there either, but I know which one you're talking
Did-
about. Let me see.
Yep.
Monday or Friday, I mean?
Yes.
Yes, it
Okay.
was. It went to the
Okay.
council account. So.
Okay.
Okay.
So because it was at length and something that I take very seriously, and something that we take very seriously in the city, I wanted to commend the bravery of people who decide to speak up on matters that are very sensitive. And the power of social media during this day and age is really grand, and it brings attention to things that sometimes we might not have had attention brought to. And so I just commend the bravery on those people's parts for bringing this to our attention. And just want to say we're working on addressing things, and we're working on being better for the people that come to our city, work in our city, study in our city. Thanks.
Thanks, Dana. Lisa, do you have anything that you want to add?
Thank you. I think under the circumstances, I'll just stay quiet.
Fair. Okay. I've got a few comments. I want to echo Councilmember Watson's welcome of the Spartans. We have not had a meeting since the bulk of the students returned to campus. I definitely can appreciate some of the irritations that they bring, but overall, I think it is delightful to have them back. I love the energy that so many young people bring to our town. I had a chance to participate as a retailer in a city-sponsored event last Monday, which was the brainchild of some of our downtown development downtown activation team, I guess. It was called Extravaganza, and you can tell it was planned by 20-year-olds because it went until midnight, which was a little bit late in my opinion, but I rallied. And it was really fun to see so many kids out discovering the downtown and discovering their new community. And for a lot of people, I know that a lot of freshmen were participating in that event. It's the first time they've really had this kind of freedom, and you could really tell that they were enjoying it. So, and I also found them very respectful. We require masks in the store, and nobody gave me a hard time at all. So I was delighted to have that chance to participate and to meet so many new incoming Spartans. I do want to talk about something that has been of concern in the community. We've had a lot of people sending us pictures of the lines at the downtown bars. And so I just kind of wanted to address that, I guess. I also have a lot of anxiety when I look at those crowds. So I do what I do when I have anxiety about health problems, and I call Linda Vale, and I have her talk me down. So she kind of reminded me that we have a different situation this fall than we did last fall. We have a high volume of vaccinated people in our community, and the virus isn't moving the way that it was moving last fall. And I actually just checked the Ingham County dashboard today, and we are still looking quite plateaued, which is lovely, because I think we have had Spartans in town for a couple of weeks now, and we would start to be seeing some of those spiking numbers. So I wouldn't say that we are safe by any means, but I would remind everyone that we don't have any outdoor gathering limits in effect right now. The health department is continuing to analyze whether that would be appropriate. Right now, she's told me that she doesn't have the data basically to prove that that is a necessary step, and so far the numbers seem to be backing up that decision. So it does create a sense of anxiety to see those big crowds of people when we've been spending the last year and a half distancing. And, you know, I personally am taking a much more cautious approach to gathering, as a lot of people in the community are. But as of right now, we don't have the data to back up putting those health orders back into place. So, yes, it's concerning, and definitely follow your own heart in terms of your own exposure. But also, you know, let's let the kids have fun as well, because they've been cooped up as well. I think that's everything I have today for my personal comments. Hey, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of quick items. First is to welcome Councilmember Shannon Draheim back. We had the pleasure of working together for 4 years, a couple of years back, so thank you for willingness to serve. Appreciate seeing you. Also, a big welcome to our MSU students. East Lansing is a great, vibrant university community. In the last 18 months, something has been missing, and obviously it's great to have them back. I would just remind folks to do your best to stay safe, to protect yourselves and our community from COVID, and also remind people, to Councilmember Watson's point, that I'm sure there's a lot of pent-up exuberance, but we want to temper that to make sure we understand that we want to stay safe, but also that we live as a part of a community with year-round residents. So, but welcome back. It's great to have our student residents back a part of the community. That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Excellent. And Robert Easterly is joining us as a representative of our legal firm tonight. Mr. Easterly, do you have anything for a city attorney's report?
Just briefly, I am covering for Laura Genovich, who sent her regards. She had we had a death inside of the firm, and she had to attend this evening. So she did send her regards to the council. The only update that we had was that there were oral arguments heard in the Heos case, and we are still awaiting a decision on that.
Thank you for the update. I appreciate that, Mr. Easterly. Moving on to the next item on our agenda, item number 3, we have a special presentation introducing our new judge, Molly E. Hennessey. Greenwalt. Sorry, you've got many names. Well, welcome, Judge Hennessey Greenwalt, and whatever you guys have planned to present, this would be the time to do it.
Mayor Pro Tem, council members, I have the pleasure of doing the formal introduction tonight of our newest judge. As she has gone through the introductory procedures and her investiture and so on, I've a few times described some of the history of our court. And I won't take 30 or 40 minutes of your time tonight to do that, but I will say that we were organized as a court in 1971, so we've been around for 50 years, and Judge Greenwalt is only our 7th judge. She was appointed in late July to take the place of Judge Larkin, who retired effective June 1st. The appointment is a gubernatorial appointment, so she was appointed by Governor Whitmer. And her first day here was August 18. She is a veteran lawyer, having worked for the Supreme Court, and before that with the Ingham County prosecutor, and before that she served as a clerk with the Michigan Supreme Court, and I'll let her tell you more about that. She is, of course, a resident of East Lansing, which is a requirement for an appointment or election to our court. Her husband is with Michigan State University. She has 3 children in the East Lansing school system. I think she's been in the Bailey neighborhood as a resident, with her family, 14 years. Pretty good. And we're happy to have her. There was a 2-month period where we had only one judge. That would have been me. And while we have, I think it's safe to say, a manageable caseload with 2 judges working, it's not quite exactly the same with just one. We, of course, welcome the students back. We'll be getting to know some of them on a more intimate basis probably within the next several weeks, but it'll take a little bit for the flow of that to begin in our court. And I think Judge Hennessey Greenwalt is prepared to undertake her responsibilities. Her name is fully Molly Hennessey Greenwalt. She is our newest judge, and I'm happy to introduce her to you, and I'm sure she'll say a few words. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Judge Ball. Judge Ball is becoming very good at introducing me. I feel like I don't really need to say anything after he's given you such a good introduction. But Mayor Gregg, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, the city manager, and Mr. Easterly, nice to see you all today, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to introduce myself and say a few words. I've been really grateful for the welcome that I've received, and I'm just so very proud to serve this court, this city, and this community. As Judge Ball mentioned, I have been in East Lansing for about 14 years. My husband and I came here from Minnesota. We're Minnesotans.
I'm from Minnesota.
I did not know that. We'll have to talk. Yes, so when, and we came here, like many people's stories, for a job at the university. My husband is in the College of Education, and he, you know, this was his first job after getting his doctorate, and we came here, we had a 3-month-old baby, and I was in law school, and I transferred to MSU Law School, and that's sort of our story. And so we built a life here. As Judge Ball mentioned, we bought our first house about 14 years ago in the Bailey neighborhood, not knowing what a gem we were getting, and with the proximity to all the kids' schools. We have 3 children, and this year we have kids at each of the schools, the high school, the middle school, and the wonderful Marble Elementary. And yes, muskrats. So we really did not know how lucky we were to find that house and that community. And there's just no doubt that it is our forever home, just because my children would never leave, and they would turn out to be, you know, they'd have to forcibly remove them, and it would turn into a court case, and it would have to go before Judge Ball, and it would not be good. So we're very, very lucky and happy. And as Judge Ball mentioned, after graduating law school at MSU Law, I was a law clerk for Justice Stephen Markman of the Michigan Supreme Court. And from there, I became an Ingham County Assistant Prosecutor for about 5 years. I worked at various courts throughout the county, district, circuit court level, and I was a special prosecutor prosecuting crimes against children for a number of years. And then I ended up going back to the Supreme Court in the role of what's called a commissioner. And that meant that I was sort of a staff attorney for the justices and advising them on matters that come before the court, both, you know, civil, criminal, the whole spectrum of the law, and then including some administrative matters. So it was a really wonderful job, and I wouldn't have left it for anything but this even more wonderful job, being a 54B district court judge. And I am so very proud to be part of this court. And I'm so very proud of the tradition of mutual respect that this council and the court have for one another as two co-equal branches of government. And I fully intend to do everything I can to continue that tradition. For the court, I know some of you know about some of these programs, but I just wanted to tell you a few of the things that I'm most excited about. And the court has 3 treatment courts, which I see your head shaking. I know you're familiar with them, those being the Veterans Court, the Drug Court, and the Sobriety Court. I will be presiding over the Drug Court and the Sobriety Court, which were both founded by my predecessor, Judge Andrea Larkin. And they really are one of the things that I'm most excited about. And just to let you know, those courts are going strong. I would say, if anything, there's just more intention and enthusiasm from the state administrative level for these courts. And in reviewing some of the data, most recent data, I'll share with you my favorite little statistic, which was that in 2020, they look at for the 3 years after admission, and this is in our sobriety court, of the participants who actually graduate from sobriety court, only 1% of those graduates went on to commit another crime within a 3-year period, and 0%, that would be no one, committed a drug or alcohol offense. So I had to double check with my probation, my chief probation officer, to make sure that was accurate, and she said, yes, indeed it is. One thing about 54B, which is so remarkable, is they have these treatment courts where there's so much time and attention given to individuals who come before us, but it's not only the treatment courts and the people who come before the court for our regular probation are also, I think, given a level of attention and respect that you don't always see at other courts. In being a district court, I feel like we have the potential to at least have a goal of every person who comes before our court to try to make this their last interaction with the criminal justice system in that capacity. And I told my sobriety court participants, you can go on to be a lawyer and a judge and do other things, but you will not be a defendant again in this capacity. And when I say that, they all shake their heads, and they don't want to be in this position again either. And I don't believe anybody does. So with I think being a district court, being sort of this first level of crimes where you do meet people who this is their first interaction with the justice system, and then in particular our community with having so many young people who it really is their first interaction, I feel like we are particularly well positioned to try to make that goal a reality for people. And on that note, I wanted to thank the council specifically for allocating $14,000 in marijuana licensing fees to be used to fund substance abuse testing and treatment costs for non-treatment court probationers. This money will be used to offset costs for critical treatment services for our low-income probationers. So I want to thank you very much. It's my understanding from our wonderful court administrator that the contracts are in the works and will be sent to be signed by our local treatment providers, and that these funds could be used within the next 2 weeks. Thank you very much, all of you, for that. And just in closing, this has been, I've been saying, a very exciting time to become a district court judge. And I imagine you could also say it's an exciting time to be a city council member. And when I say that, I don't mean to say it in the way of, the phrase, we live in interesting times, or these are interesting times, which is true also, but I don't want to at all emphasize a negative in that. I think that there are serious discussions happening about the justice system and about the role of the justice system and access to the justice system. And coming out of those discussions and then on top of the pandemic, I look at 54B and what that court has done, and I am really excited. As you probably all will know, the court was able to adapt and adjust to COVID, so they stayed open. And we, Judge Ball and I now have a virtual courtroom. So any of you could go online and watch most of our proceedings. And I'm not recommending you do so, but you could do it. There's also the virtual counter so that citizens can access the court through that online option. And I think when you talk about access and openness and transparency, in many ways we've moved to a whole new level. There's still kinks to be worked out, and it is not perfect, but it is exciting. And I would say the same about a lot of the criminal justice reform that's going on, that's through legislation on the state level and local level. And I think there's a lot of potential for good. So I am excited, and I am very interested in what's happening in a very open and cautiously optimistic way, because as a judge, you can't be overly optimistic because it just wouldn't work. I feel very fortunate to be part of these changes, and I thank you again for your warm welcome, and I look forward to working with you and getting to know you in the future. Thank you all.
Well, welcome to 54B, Judge Hennessey Greenwalt. I have watched some of the drug court graduation ceremonies online, and they are truly moving. And I also have 3 kids in 3 schools, so I feel like we should talk Minnesota and motherhood. But anyway, very pleased to have you. We can move on to the consent agenda. I will bump that over to you, City Manager, unless anybody has anything that they want to remove from that quite lengthy list. Does anybody have anything they want pulled off?
Okay.
No, going once, going twice. All right, George, over to you.
Yep, we have the following items on the consent agenda for council's consideration. Item 4.1, approve the following appointments or reappointments to boards and commissions. A, Grace Anderson to the University Student Commission for a full term ending September 30th, 2022. 4.2, approve a resolution celebrating Elizabeth Anderson on her 90th birthday. 4.3, approve a resolution celebrating the 55th Annual Freedom Fund celebration for the Lansing Branch NAACP. Item 4.4, approve a resolution to establish September 28, 2021 as National Voter Registration Day. Item 4.5, approve the city's annual pollinator-friendly community resolution. Item 4.6, approve a Class 3 rental license allowing up to 2 unrelated persons or a family at 2860 Coleman Road. The owner is Romy Crawford, Lansing. Item 4.7, approve a Class 3 rental license allowing up to 2 unrelated persons or a family at 278 West Saginaw Road, Unit 303. The owner is Deepa Krish, Herndon, Virginia. Item 4.8, approve the annual Burcham Park landfill gas and well monitoring contract with Golder Associates in the amount of $64,916. 4.9, approve a contract with C&D Hughes Incorporated for the Burcham Valve Replacement Project in the amount of $878,658 and authorize the city manager to sign. Item 4.10, approve a contract with Rowe Professional Services Company for as-needed professional engineering services in an amount not to exceed $50,000 and authorize the city manager to sign. Item 4.11, approve a contract with Fishbeck for as-needed professional engineering services in an amount not to exceed $50,000 and authorize the city manager to sign. 4.12, approve a contract with E.T. McKenzie Company for the Oak Hill Retaining Wall Replacement Project in the amount of $290,460 and authorize the city manager to sign. Item 4.3, approve an alley closure in the 500 block of downtown East Lansing for the MSU Drawing Marathon scheduled on September 30th, 2021. Item 4.14, approve a contract in the amount of $40,000 to Edubusi Okoye for design and installation of a mural on the wall above the entrance to the Albert Avenue parking garage, 188 Albert Avenue, and authorize the city manager to sign. Funds for this contract are available in the Public Art Fund. Those are all the items on the consent agenda for council's consideration.
Thanks, George. Final possibility to pull anything off if anybody had any thoughts. Otherwise, I'll look for a motion.
I move approval of the consent agenda as read by the city manager.
Moved by Councilmember Draheim. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Bacon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Sounds like unanimous. Excellent. On to public hearings. Item 5.1. Consideration of a request from Boji Group to modify a condition related to a fencing material for an approved special use permit and site plan at 1100. Brain evaporated there for a second. Trowbridge Road. I think this is Mr. Menzer.
Yeah. Hey, I'm up here.
Oh, hey. Sorry, you're not where I expected
Yeah,
you to
moving
be.
around.
All good, all good. All right, tell us about this fence.
So, hey, everybody. I'm Peter Menser. I'm the Planning and Zoning Administrator for the city. So tonight, the first public hearing is a request from Boji Group. This is to modify a condition on a previously approved special use permit and site plan approval for development at Trowbridge Road. The development is on the north side of Trowbridge, west of Harrison. It's a Spring Hill Suites by Marriott Extended Stay Hotel, and there's also a multi-tenant commercial development on that site. So this request stems from an approval back in 2017 for the development. One of the conditions of approval was the construction of a new 6-foot-tall concrete or brick wall that connected a brick wall on the north side of property with a brick wall or a block wall on the west side of the property. So this was a request by the council at the time to kind of fill the gap in the wall. So, and that was the way the project was approved. Construction commenced, development was complete, and you probably now have seen that the hotel has guests and the tenants in the commercial space are starting to occupy that. However, the condition that was added by council was never completed. Instead of that required concrete or brick wall in that northwest corner of the site, the property owner installed an 8-foot-tall wood fence. So the request tonight is to modify that condition of the approval in 2017 to allow the wood fence to remain, the wood fence that was constructed to remain. Emily, would you mind pulling up there's a couple photos I think that probably explain the request better than I can. So there's a link called staff photos. So while that's coming up, I just want to give a little more information. So the fence is at 8 feet right now. It was installed at 8 feet. We also concurrently with this review by council, the request went to the Zoning Board of Appeals related to the height. The ZBA denied that request for height, so the fence is going to have to be lowered down to 6 feet tall. So that issue has been settled, but the request for the modification of the condition is still valid. The Planning Commission heard this request at its meeting in July, and they voted to recommend approval for the couple of reasons noted in your staff memo. And then there is a condition, or excuse me, a motion should you consider approval of the request tonight. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is that area. So this wood fence is the wood fence that was constructed in lieu of the required block or brick wall in that corner. As you can see, it's in the very northwest corner of the site. It's about 58 feet long. And this is what the applicant's requesting to remain on the site. Your denial would have this fence would be removed and the new wall would have to be constructed in accordance with the original approval. And a representative for the applicant is here tonight to answer any questions you might have, and I can also answer any questions you may have as well.
I did go back and rewatch the Planning Commission talking about this, but I did have a question. I only went 2 meetings back. I didn't go all the way back. The reason that this was built as a wood fence and not as a concrete fence was something to do with the landscaping on the other side of it, or was it like, was there a deliberate choice there to not do the concrete?
No, oh no, my name is Terry Fitzpatrick.
Hi,
I'm
Terry.
with Boji Group. We were the developers for this property. Thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. And because there's a lot of new faces, I just wanted to remind everybody, this is where the former Holiday Inn was that was real dilapidated there. And adjacent to it is the Arbor Forest Apartments. So there was always a wooden fence there. That wooden fence had been there for, according to the apartment owners, 50 years. So it wasn't a decision at just some point in that area to build a wooden fence. It would replace the fence that was there that was somewhat worn. If it's possible to put that picture back up, I think it would really help explain why that was done, the one that you just showed. And then there's one after it that shows the other side. If the Arbor Forest Apartments, that whole neighborhood was very engaged in the planning process, that those trees and everything that are on their side of the property, then there's another one that shows where they have a very nicely little manicured park, very well maintained, manicured. It's actually 3 or 4 feet over on our property. And that's why that's jog in the fence. And if the concrete fence would have went straight back on our property line, then it would have taken out the trees and the vegetation, and it would have been, a lot more than the fence, because the footings require like 18 inches, but the equipment needed to get back there to do that requires 4 feet. So it would have been very damaging to their property, and because of where it's situated on the property, no one sees it from the road or anything. They did agree to us, we shared the cost of replacing the existing wood fence there that preserved all of their trees and vegetation. And so it was, I just wanted to, because it sounds like we just decided to build a wooden fence there for some reason, and that's not really what occurred. So we worked together on that, and that's what we came up with. As we recently finished the entire development, which was the retail out in front that's now occupied, this became an issue with the final site approval and everything, is this fence. And so that's why we're here. That's why we're here today. The ZBA did deny it, but it was a 3-3 vote. And there was a lot of, meaning the height of it from being 8 foot from 6 foot. There was a lot of discussion by the more seasoned people on the ZBA that it should be approved. So that went back and forth quite a bit. And so, we don't think that taking it down 2 feet is probably going to disturb the vegetation. We hope it doesn't for our neighbors. And of course, they go back to, why are we changing a fence that's been there 50 years? But that's why we're here before you tonight.
I have one more question for Mr. Menser. So the Zoning Board of Appeals has final authority on the height?
They do, yes.
Okay, so it's coming down to 6 feet, even though it looks fairly nicely consistent with that brick wall
Yeah,
at the height that it is.
It'll be have to lower to 6 feet. There is a provision in our ordinance that allows the top 2, so it'll be at 6, but there's a provision in our ordinance that allows the top 2 feet, so to extend up to 8, as long as it's 75% open, unobstructed. So there's the possibility to get that extra height with the addition of some open fencing.
I don't want to go too broadly off topic, but there was some discussion at the Planning Commission about the fact that our 6-foot height is citywide, regardless of circumstance. And I wonder, and I guess I'm looking to you as the zoning professional, if there was some sense in having additional height allowed in areas like this where a commercial property adjoins a residential property, where you have one property that potentially has much more traffic, hotel in and out traffic next to a residential property, whether some additional height might be warranted and whether we should look at that.
Sure.
Obviously, that's not going to solve your problem, I'm sorry. But I don't know. You and I have been talking a lot about fences lately.
Yeah, our team is looking at some potential draft language for council to consider for different scenarios related to fences, both for commercial and for residential.
Perfect. That's great. I'm glad to hear that that's already underway. All right. Well, I guess this is a public hearing, so thank you for your input. If we have any other questions, we can call you back up. If there's anyone here from the public that has any opinion about this, we would love to hear it. Okay.
So caller with a phone number ending in 976, you are now permitted to address council.
Hello, this is Paul Duncan. Am I on?
You are.
Okay, thanks. I have no comments on this one, but I guess I will just mention that I am the applicant for the next public hearing. I'm not there in person, but I am here on the phone.
We will call on you when your item comes up. Thank you. I also, seeing the time pop up on the screen, I realized I did not mention that we are limiting public comment to 5 minutes. I guess we've kind of adopted that as a permanent rule, so I don't know if we have to say it every single time now, but anyway, 5 minutes. All right, onward and outward. Final call for anyone with opinions about fences. Excellent. Okay. I guess since I've got it right here in front of me, will move to recommend approval of the modification to condition number 15 of the special use permit and site plan approval for the commercial development located at 1100 Trowbridge Road to allow the approximately 58-foot long wood fence to remain. Condition number 15 shall be modified to read as follows. The developer shall add 6-foot high wood fence to connect the existing, I only have part of the motion. Anybody want to pick that up for me? Sorry. Didn't have the full page. Let me find it.
I have it.
Thanks,
The
Dana.
existing wall on the west side of the property with a new brick wall being constructed along the north line of the property. Approval of the modification is recommended to City Council for the following reasons. Should I read all the reasons?
Usually we can just say like the
Following
however
three
many
bullet.
reasons recommended by the Planning Commission. Can we do that?
The following reasons, the 3 bullets. Can I say that? Makes sense to me.
I think that's fine. Is that, it was a little bit sloppily done, Mr. Easterly, but you're okay with that? All right, excellent. Is there a second to that extremely messy motion?
Second.
Wonderful, seconded by Councilmember Bacon. I'll give Dana that first, maybe, I don't know, half and half, we can split it. All right, all in favor? Oh, sorry, discussion. Thanks, experienced Councilmember Graham.
I just have a couple remarks. As somebody who was on council when this was approved, I certainly do not have any interest in moving to have something that's already there sort of majorly redone or taken down. But I will say a couple things that I just think are a little disappointing. I know that the fence was there for a long time, but there was a major property use changing. And so the reason that we included a concrete wall like that was to help both continue the look and feel of that property all along that wall, so that we didn't do what we often do in the city, having like 6, 7 different building materials on a single property. For both aesthetic purposes, but also in this case, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, it was related to sort of noise and privacy. I think the fence is fine and it's lovely, but you all, Boji has done enough work in the city, I think, that to know that when changes from a special use permit or special use consideration happens, that you need to be contacting staff and you need to be working with staff on those, and sort of building it and then asking forgiveness later is not a habit I think the city should be in when we are doing things like this, because we very carefully consider those conditions when we approve permits. And there's reasons, and it's not that we're always right. Sometimes we are wrong, and it may make more sense if the residents really wanted this, and I see the arguments for it. I think we could have approved that, but I just think that is not a precedent we want to get into.
Excellent point, Councilmember Dreheim. All right.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I'm just kind of channeling my inner Aaron Stevens on the compliance piece of it. But I do consider doing things in good faith from the beginning, with things rather than kind of building them out and then hoping that we don't drop the hammer is kind of a very East Lansing thing that people tend to do in business around here. So just for future reference, I do now think it's kind of silly and from a code perspective to be lowering a fence 2 feet. So we're kind of sitting on both sides of this in partnership. Some of our codes are very antiquated and weird with those things, but I think just doing things in good faith up front prevents any of this conversation from even having to happen. So, but thank you for getting to compliance, and that's the point. And just thank you for your work.
Lisa, do you have anything to add? Your picture on the screen is very small.
I would just like to agree with Councilmember Draheim and Councilmember Bacon's comments. While I do think this garden is lovely and I really like the cooperation, an experienced developer knows better. And at some point, the city of East Lansing is not going to continue giving forgiveness automatically.
All right, if everyone has said their piece, Dana, have you got anything to add? All right, I think we can move for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And any opposed? I see none. All right. Excellent. Moving on. 5.2. Our second public hearing of the evening is a consideration of ordinance 1501 to conditionally rezone 4.5 acres located at 3225 West Road from RA Residential Agricultural District to B5 Community Retail Sales Business District. And I think this is you as well, Mr. Menser.
It is. Thank you very much. So this is the public hearing tonight is for the conditional rezoning of 4.5 acres. It's at 3225 West Road. So the condition in this case, was, of course, conditions in the rezonings. The council cannot put conditions on rezoning, but applicants can offer them voluntarily. So in this case, the applicant is voluntarily offered to condition the rezoning of this property that, if it's approved, that would revert back to RA zoning if the applicant for the rezoning, which in this case is different than the property owner, does not purchase the property from the property owner by March 1st, 2022. So that's the condition that's proposed here. The process thus far has been a public hearing with the Planning Commission. When the condition was added, we held a new public hearing because that's what our ordinance calls for. It's conditional rezoning is different from a traditional rezoning. So following that second public hearing, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval. And then there is a motion in your meeting packet. This proposal to rezone this property on West Road is in conjunction with a site plan proposal that you'll see later on the agenda. So the applicant is actually available via the Zoom call tonight. I would assume he has something to share, and then if you have any questions.
Sure. Emily, can we pull him back in?
Caller with the phone number ending in 976, you are now permitted to address council.
Hi, good evening. Paul Duncan with Concord Hospitality. I just wanted to say I appreciate you having us here at the meeting. The request for the reason. I don't know that I have items to add besides what's in the staff report, but am happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Excellent. We'll have you hang on the line in case anything comes up with other comment. Do we have any members of the public that would like to speak about this possible conditional rezoning? All right. Seems uncontroversial. Should we?
Well.
Oh, we do have another caller on the line. Okay, thank you, Emily. Let's bring them in.
Caller with the phone number ending in 345, you are now permitted to address council.
Hi, my name's Chris Hale. I'm a colleague of Paul Duncan's with Concord Hospitality. There's nothing further for me to add. We're here to help in any way we can.
Wonderful. Thanks for joining us. One last call for any members of the public here with us today to address this. Seeing none, I think we can move this for purposes of discussion. Is anybody willing to move the suggested motion? or I have it here and I have it in the complete text this time. So I will move to adopt ordinance 1501 to amend the zoning use district map of chapter 50, zoning of the Code of East Lansing to rezone a 4.5 acre parcel located at 3225 West Road from RA Residential Agricultural District to B5 Community Retail Sales Business District, subject to the condition voluntarily offered by the applicant that the property will revert back to RA zoning if the applicant does not purchase the property from the owner by March 1st of 2022. I guess we need a second.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Draheim. All right, discussion. I think this is pretty straightforward in that it's related to a business item. I have got nothing to add. It's pretty cut and dry.
Can I just ask Mr. Minzer a question? So in terms of the zoning, and I'm going to apologize because I'm like a little rusty, but so if this would convert this to B5 and that it's kind of sandwiched then in between two B4s and then B5, but all of that B5, can you walk that to the commercial 3 for me? Like all of that is allowable use or envisioned use under what the master plan called the commercial 3, right?
So the master plan in this area is blue. It's commercial 3. So that it allows a mix of uses, but really does fit into the proposed zoning district B5. So it's the same types of uses that would be allowed in that zoning.
Okay, thank you.
All right. If there's no further discussion, we can move to a vote. Last chance. Lisa, did you have anything for discussion?
No, thank you.
All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, I believe that is a unanimous approval. All right, excellent. That concludes all of our public hearings for the evening, and we will move on to our business agenda. Item 6.1, consideration of ordinance number 1505, an ordinance amending the code of the City of East Lansing regarding pavement sealant as adopted by ordinance 1498. Mr. Easterly is listed as the contact here. Are you briefed on the content of this?
I am, thank you.
Excellent.
This is simply to correct a misnumbering. And so proposed ordinance 1505 would amend the city code regarding pavement sealant as adopted by ordinance number 1498. A typographical error was found in ordinance 1498, so this proposed ordinance would recodify 1498 to place it in its proper location in the city's code. Proposed ordinance number 1505 does not change the substance of ordinance 1498, nor does it affect the current effectiveness of the ordinance.
Excellent. So housekeeping primarily.
That's correct.
Excellent. All right. I guess we can move this for purposes of discussion and then see where it goes from there. Anyone willing to move this?
I'll move this.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilmember Babcock. We will assume that you are moving approval of ordinance 1505 and an ordinance amending the code of the City of East Lansing regarding pavement sealing as adopted by ordinance number 1498. Is that what you moved?
Precisely. Thank you.
Excellent.
I realized just as I said it, I don't have it in front of me.
All good. I got you, girl. All right. Anybody have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Draheim. Any discussion? If not, we can vote on this extremely controversial matter. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, that is a unanimous approval. Moving us on to item 6.2. Cruising right along. All right. This is consideration of policy resolution 2021-15 and ordinance number 1506. An ordinance to amend section 8-133 of the city code to allow food trucks during neighborhood association block parties. I see George Lahanas as the staff person on this.
So this is an item that has come up because we've had a number of requests from neighborhood associations to have a neighborhood annual picnic or a neighborhood annual food gathering, and to be able to have food trucks participate in that. Our ordinance doesn't allow for that, so this change narrowly allows them to participate and have food trucks up to 2 participate in a recognized neighborhood association event for that purpose. Mr. Fehrenbach may have some information to add because there is one change we'd like to request from council.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, I totally didn't realize you switched places with
Oh,
Mr.
sorry,
Minster.
yeah.
You guys are really confusing me tonight. These anonymous gray suit jackets, and except his is blue. I don't know what's going on. All right.
So as the city manager mentioned, this is a fairly narrow change to the ordinance, and approving the resolution would therefore amend the ordinance, would allow up to 2 trucks 1 time a year for neighborhood associations. Based on some further analysis, staff would recommend that we change 1 word, which is registered, to recognized, and that would help to align with the other sections of the code and sort of how the process works in terms of neighborhood associations. So we would recommend you approve the policy with that 1 change to 7B of section 8-133, but also replacing the word registered to recognized. And then if you approve this, we have a subsequent item, which is the rules, the administrative procedures under the next action item.
Excellent. And is that, sorry, I'm going off a printed copy of is your recommended motion in here, including the subsections and dashes?
I don't believe it is.
Okay,
But
we
it
will
would
just
basically-
move it as you said it.
Okay.
Excellent. All right. I, again, at risk of going wildly off of topic, I've had several requests from people whose kids are in the soccer program up at the soccer complex to allow food trucks up there. I'm assuming this would do nothing for that circumstance, but I was wondering if we could figure out how to address that next.
Thank you. Yes, and I'm sorry, I meant to mention that. We are looking at a broader update to the food trucks, including possible changes to downtown and how the concessionaire's permit works, including private property, food trucks in parks, and I think that would be one of the other things that we look at. That's
Excellent.
going to be a little bit of more work to do in terms of other input. So given the interest that we had from neighborhood associations, we thought we'd bring this forward in kind of this discrete manner, but then kind of go through a broader process to include the Planning Commission and the DDA and other boards and commissions in kind of the larger conversation, which we expect to have here in the next couple months.
Excellent. And now just one more point of clarification. I know people sometimes bring food trucks in for like private parties. My assumption would be that that would still be allowed as it has been allowed if it's on private property, privately paid.
So I don't think our current ordinance speaks to that, so it's something that I think we'd want to address and
Okay.
have available on private property in certain circumstances.
I'm assuming if it's in your driveway and you paid them to be there, that it's probably okay for like graduation parties and stuff like that. Mr. Lahanas?
I think the distinction is that you're allowed to do it if they're not vending and selling the product, but rather
fair.
there as a caterer, so to
Right.
speak. Then I believe, is that distinction
I think that's correct, but
I believe that's the distinction there.
We'll
Okay.
definitely
But you're
look
correct.
into that.
I wouldn't want to accidentally disallow that through this if, but it sounds like it does not.
Nope,
Okay.
this is just a minor change, adding this language, allowing them for neighborhood block parties.
Okay. Would anyone like to move approval of this, including Mr. Fehrenbach's audibly rendered edits, I guess?
I'll move approval of policy resolution 2021-15 and ordinance number 1506 to amend section 8133 of city code to allow food trucks during neighborhood association block parties as amended, or as with recommended changes by city staff.
Perfect. I will second that. Any further discussion?
I have a question.
Mr. Bacon?
just really particularly with food trucks, I do kind of understand the downtown association and direct competition in the marketplace with downtown. I maybe am just too new to this part of it. There's just a weird food truck distancing. Is there something that food trucks did to East Lansing that I'm not aware of in the neighborhoods? The limited number and that type of thing, it seemed like something that could be done on an individual basis. I'm just confused by the need to limit or control them in the neighborhoods or for festivals or whatever. They could be brought forth, explained to me.
So obviously you're right, Councilmember, that the issue of the downtown related to some equity for bricks and mortar businesses and one to make sure businesses are competitive in that respect. But the area also is, by having the neighborhood association have it to this limited purpose, is to avoid the opportunity for, let's say, game day block parties to happen near the downtown where we have food truck rallies and very large crowds. So we wanted to have something that was very manageable, attached to a neighborhood association, their annual gathering, and then it's not something that creates potentially larger issues for law enforcement. You could imagine very easily at game day or fall weekends having food truck rallies near the downtown could create a very big issue in terms of control, policing, all that goes with it.
I think I'd envision if you go larger than two, like it'd be a different permitting system, but not that it's limited to two. It just feels really anti-competitive or something. There's something that doesn't feels weird. So that would just be something that I'd want to look at. It just feels micromanaged a little bit. So yeah, I don't have quite the language around it or anything for at this point, but it just feels a little artificial. So might be something to look at in the future.
I think also the notion was to give this basically a trial and see how it goes by, first we had said one and people thought that was too restrictive because some neighborhood associations are small and one food truck may be more than sufficient, but some are larger. That was the two, but there was no magic number to it, just that it could serve the actual association members who came to the gathering and not be a thing that draws people from the outside to make like a fair or a street festival. It wasn't the idea. It's to service the neighborhood associations gathering or potluck. But there was nothing magical about the two limit except that it seemed a reasonable number to start out with.
In fairness, I'm probably hypersensitive as I move around the community because I think many people just think a lot of stuff we do is arbitrary. So I was just trying to get to the why the two or what the reason for the two was. I was just fishing it out. But so that was it. Thank you.
I have a question. And in terms of the timeline for a more comprehensive look at this, I mean, this section of it could potentially be revisited and done under the context of a whole larger, I assume we have neighborhood associations who are doing their fall picnics and wanting to do this is kind of the driving, yeah, okay. I think Councilmember Bacon raises some good points here. I mean, two may be the right number or maybe it's a staggered thing, but I agree. I think like really having some good rationale for why we sort of pick those numbers and do that. So maybe just revisiting that when the full policy is looked at, I think makes good sense.
Just to kind of summarize your statement, Mr. Lahanas, this is essentially kind of preventing, the Glencairn Neighborhood Association from sponsoring 20 food trucks on a random football association. Not that they would do that, but this would prevent that and give us a chance to kind of see how it goes on a very limited scale as kind of a baby step forward.
Exactly, and to try to do it quickly and easily enough to allow them to facilitate their gatherings this fall and to do something that wasn't expansive, that didn't need the larger look, but something that could just be implemented quickly and facilitate those gatherings. And also to try expanding food trucks in a reasonable way, which we do hear a lot of interest in food trucks. And this is a good way, I think, to get those out in the neighborhoods and get people comfortable with that idea.
I would propose one edit. So as of right now, it says 2 trucks once per year. I would say 2 trucks twice per year to allow for a spring and a fall neighborhood gathering. That's my only requested edit. If I can have that accepted as a friendly amendment.
I'll accept that. I think I moved this, did I?
What's that?
Did I move this? I think I moved.
I think you did.
Yeah, I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
Excellent. Do we need a second on amendment or just an acceptance by the Seconder.
Yes.
We're good? Okay. All right, any further discussion? Lisa, sorry, you're so tiny. I just want to make sure I'm not forgetting you.
I'm fine, thank you very much.
Excellent. All right. Dana?
I just want to add that I think this is a great step to have food trucks as an option for neighborhoods. And it'll also be cool to see it being able to be offered to groups of people, because not everyone lives in a neighborhood association. And so them being able to take advantage of this is going to be fun too.
All right, I think we can vote on this if there's nothing else to add. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, I believe that is a unanimous approval. Moving us on to the coincidental next item, the consideration of Policy Resolution 2021-16, a resolution establishing the administrative procedures for food trucks during neighborhood block parties. Mr. Fehrenbach.
Thank you, Mayor. So like you mentioned, this basically is a policy that establishes the administrative procedures. This was a good effort of staff to really, I think, start the broader conversation as it relates to administering all of the kind of impacts and potential impacts of food trucks. So something that will be, I think, useful also for the larger effort, and something also I think we can revisit. Essentially, this establishes those procedures. Most notably are approvals that are necessary from the Ingham County Health Department, and then some inspections from the fire and electrical trades, which our staff is very strongly in favor of. But that also we can streamline to make the process as easy as possible for folks. So we are recommending your approval of this policy, subject to the one change, which would be changing that word registered to recognized, just to align with your previous action.
All right, would anyone like to move this for purposes of discussion? I can move it if nobody else wants to. I will move approval of policy number 2021-16, a resolution establishing the administrative procedures for food trucks during neighborhood block parties, including the suggested edit by Mr. Fehrenbach, changing registered to recognized.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Babcock. Anybody have anything they would like to discuss? Looking good. No, we want to talk about boring rules. Awesome. We can vote on this then. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. That is a unanimous approval. Moving us on to item 6.4. Okie dokie. All right. Consideration of an offer from Louis Garcia to purchase approximately 0.29 acres of surplus property at 2773 Coleman Road for $50,000 and authorizing the city manager to sign a buy and sell agreement for vacant land and other documents related to the sale. Mr. Fehrenbach.
Thanks again, Mayor. So this is a small parcel that the city acquired. It was acquired by the Clinton County Road Commission on behalf of the city as part of the Coleman Road Extension Project. Now that that project is complete, and after the city altered the parcel to remove the right-of-way so that there's no easement or other necessary actions required, we are left with a oddly shaped 0.29 parcel of land, it is actually a liability for the city in terms of maintenance. So we have known for some time that the neighboring property owner is interested in purchasing the property, but in order to just make sure there was no other interested parties, we decided to have the property listed for a period of time with NAI Mid-Michigan, who is also our real estate expert, who has listed the larger parcel catty corner, the 27 acres at Coleman West. So we listed the property and we received an offer from the neighbor. And then after some additional time, we did an analysis based on an appraisal that was done in 2019 on the full parcel on a per square foot basis, comes in at around $65,000. But given the liability, especially the maintenance, staff thought that the council may be interested in sort of splitting the difference at $50,000. And we let the property owner know that the council may be interested in that. And he has agreed to those terms. So it is in front of you for consideration tonight to approve a sale of this parcel to Mr. Luis Garcia for $50,000. It's an as-is sale. And the other part of the motion that we would recommend is that you authorize the city manager to sign this buy-sell agreement and then any other documents necessary to close the transaction. So happy to take any questions that you have.
Just curiosity, not necessarily related, but what's the zoning of the adjacent parcel? And this, I'm assuming, would be the same once it's combined?
Yes, it's current, both parcels are currently zoned in the DeWitt Township, and I believe it's R3, and I'm looking to Mr. Menser to see if he can, yes. So it's a residential zoning currently. In our master plan, it does envision the C3, that blue, and that is part of the reason that we thought it would be prudent to list it to the broader market, just because there may be a commercial interest that might be interested in a broader, bigger parcel, and this might be their way in, but that did not occur.
Fair enough. All right, is anyone willing to move this?
I'll move the council accept the offer from Luis Garcia to purchase the remainder parcel at 2773 Coleman Road, as noted on the attached survey, for $50,000, and authorize the city manager to sign the related buy and sell agreement for vacant land and any other documents necessary to close the transaction.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Draheim, seconded by Councilmember Bacon. Would anyone like to add anything to this discussion? Hearing none, seeing no hands, we can move this to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, I believe that to be unanimous. Excellent. Okay. And now the very patient final item, 6.5, consideration of the site plan approval to develop a 4-story 48,660 square foot extended stay hotel with 122 rooms at 3225 West Road. Mr. Menser.
Hello, I'm back up at the front table.
I figured it out finally. I've got it. Excellent.
Thank you. So this is the rest of the story as it relates to the rezoning that was on the agenda earlier this evening. So this is a proposal from a company, Concord WP, COL, GP Holdings 2, LLC. Site plan approval for a 4-story, 48,000 square foot hotel. It's on this 4.5 acre parcel that's been now rezoned to B5. So excuse me, sorry, I'm just on the wrong page here. So the proposal is for site plan approval. There's no special use permit required for this request. The hotel is a use allowed by right in B5 zoning. So it is subject, however, to our site plan process. And just generally, the overview on that is the application comes to our planning and zoning office. We distribute copies of the plan to other departments in the city. They review them, provide comments back to us, and planning kind of serves as the center, compiling the comments and sharing those with the applicant, and kind of being the go-between in that case. So this proposal's been reviewed by our team. So every aspect of the city, like I said, and meets the city's ordinances. There's no variances required or anything. So that is all I've got for you on this proposal.
Excellent. Is anyone interested in moving this?
Can I ask a question before we?
Sure, go ahead.
So Item number 4, in terms of the conditions, water and sanitary sewer extensions and connections shall be approved. It's pretty standard language. I assume that means on their property. We do not need to do any kind of municipal sewer extension to make this work, or any expansion of our sewer and water lines to accommodate this development? Is that, do you know?
I'm number 4 in the conditions.
Yeah.
If anything, the extension would be from the main to the building itself.
Right, that's what I'm assuming that is
Yep,
number 4.
that is
But I
correct.
guess I just want to verify that.
Yep, that is correct.
Okay, that we don't, but we don't anticipate any other sewer or water improvements that are municipal owned, or
Correct, there's-
expansions or anything to accommodate this.
Yeah, sorry, I misunderstood. There are no proposed extensions of mains at all. There would
Okay.
just be 2 service lines to extend to the building itself.
Okay.
Because it's a fair ways off the road.
Okay.
All right, we still need a second to move this forward, if anybody's interested in doing that.
Second.
Seconded by, or moved, I guess, sorry. We need a move,
want to
and then we need a second. I lost myself. So I'm going to assume that you moved it, Mr. Bacon. Is that fair?
Yeah.
All right.
I'll
So now we
second.
need a second. Seconded by Councilmember Babcock, moved by Councilmember Bacon. Sorry about that. All right, any further discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Bacon?
You know, I'm all for new business and that kind of thing, and just kind of counting this, do we need this? It's kind of my grand question, and particularly as we are careening towards a housing study and everything else, it's just stuck in my craw in the back of my mind in a virtually landlocked city. Just for public comment, is it what for? Or is the demand there, or is it just another big edifice on the?
Well, is the applicant with us? I could represent the conversation that happened at Planning Commission, but if the applicant is here, they could give their side of that.
I'm just curious.
I think they might be one of the callers, Emily.
Hello, this is Paul Duncan, Concord. Yes, and I appreciate the question. I'll answer that. First off, I would just like to say that you guys have a great job on here with your Zoom meeting. It's been very easy and quick and easy to follow. So it's been, this has just been a very professionally well done meeting. But to answer your question in terms of what is the need, I would say there's certainly an extreme need. As we went through here and looked at what is around here and what the demand is, we were surprised to see, I mean, there's the extended stay segment in East Lansing is really underserved, and the demand is, we have a market study, we have STAR reports done that show the occupancy and rates and everything that are out there for competitive hotels. But in most markets that we're going to, we certainly are trying to find areas that would make sense and fit in East Lansing. To be honest, it's really an open playing field, and there's a lot of opportunity to put extended stay hotels to meet this demand and the need for something that is a little lower priced to help the people coming in for businesses or traveling nurses, construction, maybe visiting professors that don't have a long-term or plan to stay for more than 6 months or a year, where they may rent an apartment. They need to come in for a matter of weeks or just a couple months. So, and they can't stay at, let's just say, a Homewood Suites for $200 a night. This provides them a great option at a weekly rate that helps them and anybody in that market find affordable housing and something nice, clean, safe place to stay temporarily. So, long-winded answer to say we've done a deep market study on this, and we would we would put 2 hotels here, very similar if we could, just because of how strong this market is and the need for it.
Yeah, I assumed you didn't come here to lose money, so that wasn't really, wasn't afraid of that part of it for you. But thank you, that was a very thorough explanation. I just thought long-term, kind of in my mind, as we approach the housing study and everything else, almost everything has to be on the table as we approach that, because I think every single square inch is going to come into play here as we're trying to figure out how to go forward. So that's just why I know. No offense to your project, it sounds excellent, and I'm pretty sure it's going to make money. But thank you for your explanation.
No problem.
I would just add, Councilmember Bacon, that I think it's a really astute observation, and I think one of the issues that's always come up in the housing issue here is short-term, our ability to accommodate, visiting professors or people, visiting nurses, things like that, and I think that's going to be a really important part of that housing discussion, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, agreed. There's a couple of families on my street that had to buy houses sight unseen because they signed a teaching contract with MSU and didn't have time to come in and shop for a house. And so having some place where they could stay for a couple of months so that they could actually get to know the neighborhood would be great. So I do see that it's a useful need and that it could definitely help out some members of our community. Anybody else have anything to add before we vote on this? Lisa? Sorry, I'm calling on you all the time. I just can't see you. I'm gonna assume she looks good. All right, she's good. Okay. It got dark in her parking lot. Oh, Lisa, thanks for making this work. No fun being caught in a rainstorm. Okay. All right. Sorry, we've moved this, right? Okay. All right. Did we read it into the record? Do I need to read it? I feel like we didn't read it. Sorry, I guess it's not even a long meeting. I'll just, for my own peace of mind, we are voting on the approval of the site plan to construct a 4-story, 4,800, oh my gosh, I should have stopped while I was ahead. 48,660 square foot hotel on a 4.5 acre site located at 3225 West Road, subject to the 18 conditions noted in the referral letter from the chairperson of the Planning Commission dated July 29th, 2021. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I believe that to be a unanimous approval, which moves us to the end of our agenda. And I think I get to hammer us out. We are adjourned.